Hi, my name is Jane, and welcome to the Blue Pepper Tomato. Hi, my name is Jane, and welcome to the Blue Pepper Tomato. Today we are going to be making chili. It's going to be called Volcanic Vendetta chili, or in other words, a volcano's vendetta chili. So what this means is we're going to be adding a great deal of peppers. Some of them are going to be spicy, but for the most part they're going to be mild. And let's get started. So right in here, this is a giant pan, cast iron pan. I have 2 pounds of ground beef and I have 1 pound of Italian sausage. So if you want to use a steak instead that you want to chop up, that is also another option. And in the future I will be doing a vegetarian chili, but for today we're going to be using meat, which is very succulent and delicious. So right away we're going to be adding a variety of spices. But first I'm going to be working with some minced garlic, and I'm going to be adding 2 to 3 tablespoons. So first today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting a variety of we're going to be working with a variety of peppers and vegetables, and we're going to be broiling them. Or in other words, we're going to be caramelizing them or charcoaling them. So right over here, I have a delicious, garish selection of vegetables. I have right here the poblano pepper, which is a mild type of pepper. It's fairly sweet. And I also have an Anaheim pepper. It's a little bit more spicier, but again, it's kind of a sweet, tangy, rich pepper. And then I also have some miniature red peppers, some miniature orange peppers, and some miniature yellow peppers. So to be honest with you, you just want to use a variety of peppers. I would say go with 2 of each, but definitely include some of your favorites in there. So I'm going to be using a giant red onion, and I'm going to be using kind of a smaller yellow onion right here too. I also am going to be adding some fresh tomatoes as well, since I love tomatoes so much. So these are also going to be incorporated in there, and I also have a head of garlic, and again more of these peppers. Right here I have a red jalapeno pepper, so that is a bit spicier. So when you're cutting this up, you do want to wear gloves. And I also have 2 jalapenos. Again, it doesn't matter the color of the jalapeno, you want to wear gloves at all times. So in order to broil something, you want it around 400 to 500 degrees. And if you just put broil on your oven, if you just hit that setting, that should come up immediately. And what we're going to be doing, I've already placed olive oil on this pan. You can use tin foil if that's easier for you. And we're just going to be laying a lot of these on here. There's so many. This is going to be a really great chili. And I'm going to choose one of my knives right over here. And I'm just going to make gentle slits with the peppers. So since I'm just really working on the outside, the exterior, I am not going to be putting gloves on. Really the interior, when you're working with the seeds or any of like the fibrous parts of the jalapenos or any hot peppers, that's really when you're going to be dealing with something that's corrosive. So just do these slits, that'll just kind of help it caramelize more, kind of breathe more. The onion, no need to take the exterior off, because you will be taking that off much easier after it has broiled successfully. Cut this into here again. And so with the tomato, just kind of cut it in 4 parts, but don't completely crack it open the whole way. what we're going to be doing is just putting olive oil on it. We're going to be adding so many different spices to this that we really do not need to kind of overwhelm it by adding a lot of pepper and salt like I usually do. So just gently kind of opening up this onion. Remember, always pay attention when you're cutting. Be aware of where the knife is going and where your hand is located. Okay, and these are so neat, these little peppers. So if you're going to be using a big pepper, I would say probably use 2 of each color, but I would avoid the what do you call it, the green ones. We already have so many different green ones. We don't want to try to mix those up when we're tasting them. Even though when you're tasting a pepper, it does have a very distinguished taste that does set it up in its own category. Right, here's the jalapeno. When you're buying peppers or really any vegetable, you want to make sure that it doesn't have any bruises or cracks already in it. And you want to look for ones that are glossy. That is a sign that they are succulent and they are ripe and they're ready to be eaten or cooked. Alright, so let's just put some more olive oil on. Spread it all out. Let's crack open this garlic. Alright, let's look at all these. This is all going into your chili. So again, if you are a vegetarian and you can't wait to make this chili, I encourage you just to take out the meat, or I mean, of course, don't even use the meat, because this is jam-packed with nutrients. So what we're going to do, we're going to have those vegetables boiling in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. And the reason that we're not going longer this time is because we're going to be putting it in a warm pan, and it's going to be cooking with all these different wet and soft and hot items. And so it's going to be cooking fairly quickly when it's with all these different other flavors and all these different products that are pretty hot and heated on their own. So right here with the meat, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be adding a variety of seasonings. Some of the seasonings might sound odd to you, but believe me, when they're all in here together, they create a kind of sweet, tangy, just a really rich and cherished flavor that I highly recommend you to try. So I don't know if you can see back here, I have a whole row of all the different seasonings. They all have a variety of benefits that I'm actually this time not going to go through all of them. First, we're going to start with one of the basics, the chili powder. And I'm going to be adding 3 to 4 tablespoons of this right into the beef and pork mixture. At this point in time, you do not want the beef and pork mixture to be almost fully cooked. You want it to be cooking throughout the entire process. Otherwise, you're going to get meat that might be a little bit more dry, even though it's surrounded by all these different flavors. Also, feel free to estimate. I'm somebody where I like to measure something. So if I make a mistake, I can go back and say, hey, I'm going to use less of that. I like to go back because I like to say the next time I'm going to be using less of that product or that material. And for the rest of these, with exception to the cayenne pepper, it's really one of the spiciest and one of the most delicious ones. We're going to be putting a half a tablespoon to a tablespoon in here. So I'm just going to start with a half of a tablespoon like that. Just put it right in there. And you know what? I'm supposed to be having a few people coming over tonight. It is my father's birthday. This is when we're celebrating it. And I think, actually I know these individuals love spicy food. And so I think this is going to be a really supreme dish for them. I think they're really going to enjoy it. But of course I don't want it to be too hot that, you know, it's inedible. So for the rest of these, we're going to just be adding 1 to 2 teaspoons. So I have coriander, I have cumin, I am going to be using some cinnamon as well, adding some sweetness, and then crushed red pepper. And then I'm going to be adding 2 to 3 tablespoons of minced, finely minced garlic. You did see before that I did put a head of garlic into the oven in order to be broiled. But garlic, it's just one of those flavors that you kind of want a lot of it. And especially when it's going to be baking with all these different juices, all these different flavors, you want it to be a part of that. So I think 3 tablespoons will be enough. Okay. Every time you finish using a spice, I would recommend you just to push it to the side. A lot of them, they do not have colors that really distinguish them, so you don't want to keep adding too much of the same one. And also, I almost forgot, we're going to be adding allspice. When you add some cinnamon and allspice, it's really Mediterranean in the sense that a lot of people add one of these spices just to add like another dimension or another depth to the food that they're eating. And so allspice, it kind of reminds you of the holidays, which is nice. Okay, so we just want to make sure that all of these spices are combining. Smells good. It kind of takes your breath away too, so it definitely has some heat to it. And remember, when you're working with meat, you don't want these itty-bitty pieces. You want there to be well-sized, plump pieces. So every time you're stirring it, make sure that you're not cutting into the meat too much. Just kind of folding naturally is what you want to work on. So here we go. I'm going to be putting this back on the stove now, and I'm going to have it on low to medium heat. Okay, so wow, look at these. These are not completely as charred as they could be, but again, we're going to be putting them into a pan that has been kind of overheated, and they're going to be cooking more thoroughly in there. And so, but you can see a lot of them, they have been blistered, they have just naturally kind of split open on their own. And they smell so fresh and delicious. So what we're going to do is let this cool a little bit. The reason we're letting it cool is because we're going to be cutting into these. We're going to be cutting them into a little bit bigger than bite-sized pieces, and we don't want to burn our hands, right? So there are additional items that are going to be added in here. Not to mention, we're going to have different tomatoes that are going to be found in the chili, but we are also going to be adding other liquids, and we're going to be adding additional vegetables as well. So first we're going to be working with beans. That is definitely integral when you're going to be making any sort of chili or anything that's going to be involving a lot of tomatoes or a lot of meats. And I have 3 different types of beans that I'm working with. 2 of the cans of beans I'm going to be working with, one is a kidney bean. It's going to be a light kidney bean. And then to contrast that a little bit, I'm going to be having a dark kidney bean. So they do have a different flavor, and of course they do look different as well. I'm also going to be using black beans. And so that's kind of like a Hispanic type of bean that's also going to have like a different texture and a different flavor to it as well. And also, lastly, we're going to have pinto beans, which are very much known to be in chili. What we're going to be doing too, we're going to be using half of the broth or the liquid that's found in the can of each one of these. So we're going to have quite a bit of cups of broth as well. And that's just going to be thickening agents that we're going to be putting into the chili. What makes beans so interesting is that it involves sulfite detoxification. It's also great for brain function as well. The way that it's really great for brain function is that it adds fat to the myelin sheath, and that really deals essentially with circuitry in your brain of how the neurology works in your brain a lot faster if you have a thick myelin sheath, in opposed to a thin one. It also is a natural energy booster. So if you're going to be going for a run or a walk, it's something that really gives you a lot of energy, and that is due to the high amounts of iron that are found in beans. I'm also going to be adding sweet corn. And when you're adding sweet corn, ideally it would be great if you could get corn on the cob and then have it broiled with these other vegetables and then just, shear off the kernels of corn. But in this case, it's not quite summer yet, so I'm going to be using it from a can. We are not going to be using the juices. All we really want is the corn. So I think right now the peppers and the other variety of vegetables have cooled down to a degree that I can chop some of them up. One of the great things about hot peppers is that it's really great with losing weight. It's something when a lot of people go on diets, sometimes they implement the eating or the consumption of hot peppers. And it's really great for just burning fat too. It really has the ability to improve your metabolism over time. It also is known to really help indigestion. I think a lot of times when people eat something hot, they automatically blame it for the indigestion. But what's really neat about hot peppers is that it goes to the source of the indigestion, and it has all of these calming juices that go into the gut, and it relieves all of that sensation of pain. Also, red peppers can be used topically too. In other words, you can put that on the surface of your skin. If you've burned your skin or if there's any sort of skin damage going on, a red pepper, it may sound painful, but I mean, if it's mixed with the right ointment, it can be very soothing to the skin. And also, a lot of times we put hot peppers with a great deal of pain. And it's true, if you're not used to eating hot peppers, or you're not used to a lot of spicy foods, maybe you didn't live in an environment where it's very commonplace, it can be definitely like a painful experience. But it's also something that reduces pain. And so it actually prevents neuropeptide, and that's a key transmitter in the brain that actually causes a lot of pain. And so what it does, it blocks this transmitter. And so you automatically are not going to feel as much pain as you would if that neurotransmitter or that transmitter was working properly. It's also something, hot peppers are also known to soothe your sinuses. And that's really from all the antibacterial properties that are evident in hot peppers. But if you don't like hot peppers, there's obviously all these different benefits to peppers that are not hot as well. But today we're just focusing on giving you more information about hot peppers. So you do want to get most of the seeds out. If you get some into the chili, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so as I'm slicing these, I'm going to be adding really the base or the tomato ingredients into this now. So in here I have about 2.5 cups of crushed tomatoes, and then I have about 1.5 cups of diced tomatoes. In the summertime, I will be making these sauces fresh, but for now, I would encourage buying organic canned goods. And again, here are around the 2 cups of diced tomatoes. This is about 30 ounces, and about 60 ounces, I would say. And also what we have in here, we have three little cans of tomato paste. And so that's very important as well. And that is going to thicken most everything. And then of course it really supplies a punch of tomato flavor. And so we're going to be working with 3 6-ounce of tomato paste. So what I'm going to do is just one at a time, just pour this right into the mixture right over here. So this is probably going to take, I want to say, a couple hours to cook. You want to keep this at low heat and monitor it and stir it probably every half an hour. So the last component is going to be, we're going to be adding the beans and we're going to be adding the sweet corn. So you want this about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch thick. And you're going to want to put all these vegetables in with the sauce. Hopefully as close as simultaneously as you can. And then we're going to be adding a cup of beef broth as well. That's just to kind of reduce some of the thickness. And lastly, we're going to be adding 6 ounces of pale ale. So when we come back, we can see the finished product. So it's probably going to take, again, around 2 hours. The last half an hour, that is when you can add the corn and the beans. I'll see you soon. This is the blue pepper tomato, and this is Jane.